thought it was like out and around. I
I
don't
know.
know. He said something about the lawn.
Alright, we're just gonna do this.
Okay, I thought it was out and around, but
Alright,
maybe
well,
not.
you do whatever you want.
No,
I really don't care. No,
I don't, okay.
Honestly, don't.
I don't.
I'm just trying to pick this up.
Well, here. I'm gonna just. I have no idea. I'm gonna. Come on, let's go. Well, there's a wall there. Let's. Hang on.
I'm gonna walk away.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah, it's a little high. Yeah, that's the. There's a. I think there's a tour going on right now. Yeah. Okay. Hmm? Okay, can I have the laser thing?
Sure.
Yeah, see this, but we can't get in there. I don't know why. Yeah, he was talking about take your camera around the front, but we can't get in there. So I don't know. I don't know.
That's cool, but it's a little public building. I have to say, if this thing is actually, if you purchase this that says stories in cemeteries,
yeah,
that's insane. That's like so false advertising.
I might pass this on to one of them. This is ridiculous.
I have to tell you, maybe it's just because it's late or because I went for a little jog, but my knees are killing me.
I think it might be because of, hopefully you're running. Might have had something to do with it. Yeah.
Definitely so sober.
Yeah. Where's Annie? I'm going to give them this camera. I don't really... Here. Alright, I'll go really quick since they've moved on.
You have the thing? Yeah.
I've got this. Okay, let's go back up.
Okay.
I'm done. Annie, do you want to look at this at all?
I'm getting distracted by this little stuff
Do you want to look at this at all or play around with it? I'm ready to hand it back.
Aww. I feel like all of my strength has gone out of my legs.
It's probably you're picking up the spirits.
I think all my strength has gone out of my legs. Okay. Not Annie.
Did you pick up any words?
I did. When we
Mm-hmm.
first got here, though, which is
How are we doing over here?
Okay, I am ready to hand this off to you. Though.
I know, there's a lot going on.
I did go around front and
Okay.
took a couple of pictures, but yeah, we're. So I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up here in a minute anyway.
I got fear then when you were over in the corner. And Ryder stayed with me almost the whole time. And then Step, I asked her favorite ship that she was on, and then Step came up. I don't know anything about what the Step was.
So, Ryder, like I told you, we're still going to get clues relative to Philadelphia Alley, and I withhold information. Dr. Ladd actually wrote poetry when he was here, and his sister Elizabeth published all of that later on after his death, and called it the literary remains of Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. So a lot of times if I get Ryder, it's usually poetry will show up somewhere too, usually on the same list. So again, it's very interesting that I still get clues over here. We're half a block away, so again, things will still pop up.
Yeah.
But
That's all I got.
this guy last night was the first night we used this new camera. Like I said, it's an upgrade, and this is where I caught that orb. Like, it was plain as day. So I'm definitely going to be pointing it in this direction. I wanted to continue recording because, again, it was very, like, to me, like, I had one little thing that was questionable over when I was telling the story. My ears just started ringing, by the way. And then over here, like, it was plain as day, nice and big, change shape. Like, you guys can scroll down and be able to see that because I gave them the marker and a still shot of it, so that way you guys can see it for yourself. I don't hide anything. All the stuff stays up on the website for a whole year. So again, I'm just pointing it in that direction just because it's obviously that's where it occurred last night. I want to follow up with Elaine and Patrick, and then we're going to go meet up by that wall. So what do we got going on with your guys's? Okay. Anything coming up out of yours?
Nothing.
Nothing at all. Okay, I'm going to call it then. Let's head over to the wall. Let's do this.
No, it's good.
So the only two I didn't talk to yet were Rylee and Luke. So let me see what they got going on. And then we will wrap this party up. Rylee, Luke, you guys got anything going on? It might be, but I don't recall that, to be honest. I can't think of where it would be. Because the only other cemetery that would have something that ornate is probably the Unitarian Church. That's over kind of near the jail. And that's the story of Annabelle Lee and Edgar Allan Poe.
And after we sat down, we got clockwise, Judon, stone, and priest.
It's common to get religious terms here. Very common. So, and you haven't heard anything on yours? Your volume up?
It's very low.
If I see a high time, you could grab the nail story.
Alright, this is our last stop. Hopefully it's big final hurrah. This is a crazy whopper of a story, so you gotta follow me a little bit. There's a lot of twists and turns. Somebody's light over there is blinding. So we're going to be discussing first that little tiny building over there with the crosses on it. First off, those are not crosses. Those are earthquake bolts. Earthquake bolts are basically turnbuckles. In the event we have another earthquake, like what we did in 1886, which we haven't, you can turn those turnbuckles, and it's supposed to straighten the building back up again. It's a great idea. It just doesn't work. So the reason I bring these up is because it's the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston put in, because this is the oldest government building in South Carolina. This is the gunpowder magazine. Served in 7 different wars, including the Civil War. That was its last service. We talked about the Charlestown walls back in Lodge Alley. Y'all remember? Where that garage is, that's where the wall sat. It actually went up past the powder magazine instead of going south behind me. It kept the powder magazine into the corners on purpose. If it gets attacked from a Revolutionary warship or a pirate ship from 3 blocks away, it's going to have a hard time going through the 32-inch thick walls. There's gunpowder inside. We're going to pretend that that cannonball goes all the way through. It penetrates, blows up the gunpowder. There's sand in the roof from the early 1700s that's supposed to go up in the air and then fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. It's another great idea, but that doesn't work either. We had another powder magazine closer to the battery. It got hit, sand in the air, the building burned to the ground. It doesn't exist anymore. This one's just never been attacked. It's too far away from the water. So we're here because this building is what I call a familiar. So it's kind of like using a toy to attract a child ghost. We don't have many buildings this old. This is also one of those spaces where the city of Charleston allows us to actually tour. So again, it's one of those spaces where I'm like, I didn't want to tell the pirate story. I wanted more vampires, but there's no vampires here. They're in New Orleans. So we're here because this building took 10 years to build. That doesn't sound like our government, right? Small building, 10 years? Not at all. 1703 to 1713, our story begins in 1708, right in the middle of it. So here's where all the twists and turns come in. Anne Cormack moves here from Ireland. She's with her dad and his mistress. The mistress is her mother. Is everybody with me so far? If I don't do this slow, everybody, I have to repeat it 12 times. So, 3 of them are running away from his wife. You guys with me on that? Okay, she's pretty pissed off. They got the hell out of Ireland to come here right, on a boat. So, they land in Georgetown. They buy a plantation, and then mom dies pretty quickly. So, he has to send young Anne down here to sell the wares from the plantation to kind of keep things afloat. The building is familiar. You can see where we're going with this. Back home in Ireland, Anne was kind of a badass. They say she actually killed one of her servants when she was like 10 or 11 years old with a knife to the belly. Sorry, you just have to be next to me. So, killing everybody does it, right? So, it's fine too.
Part of tour, right?
Yeah. So, kind of keep that mentality of who she is in the back of your minds as we go through this. It's going to get real weird real fast. So we're going to fast forward. 13, the building is done. 1715, pirates are coming through town, and Anne is stoked. She falls in love pretty quickly. This guy's name is James Bonney. You see where this is going already because we've already talked about it. She runs away to Jamaica to get married to James Bonney because Dad didn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. Anne Cormack becomes Anne Bonney. By the way, when they got here, they changed their name from Cormack from McCormack. So again, that's where I was getting all of those clues from. But James Bonney, when they got down to Jamaica and they got married, this is not the Captain Jack Sparrow that she was hoping for. This guy's a privateer. He's a spy for the British. This is not who she wants. A few years later, she falls in love again. Guy number 2. I'm going to keep track for you. So guy number 2 turns out to be John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. Much cooler name, and he has his own ship. And wants to be part of the crew with girls curse pirate ships. You can't put a girl on a crew. So he makes a deal with her. You dress like a guy, hide your gender. The guys don't know. You could be a female in my quarters. He's the captain. That's how it's going to roll. She's okay with this because Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy back home in Ireland to keep her away from his wife. So she's like, okay, let's do this. Let's put 2 and 2 together. Being a female in his quarters, she's eventually going to get pregnant. You cannot have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. It's not going to work out. Somebody's going to figure out that she's a female. So he drops her off in Cuba. These are some friends of mine. They'll help you out with delivering the baby. You can come back later and we'll figure it out. She goes and has the baby, but comes back with no baby. We have no idea what happens to this child. She's also dressed like a female. This makes Jack pretty angry. He just captured another pirate crew and they're down below deck, and Anne's going to go flirting because that's what Guy does, or Anne does. Guy number 3. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, just like a guy to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. So now we have 2 females dressed like pirates doing the exact same thing on the same ship. This young lady's name is Mary Reed. Now, her and Mary become friends, possibly lovers, we'll never know for certain. And the British find out where they are. They send their entire fleet to come take down one pirate ship. Anne and Mary are the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with their 1-bullet flintlocks. What do you think's going to happen here? The ship's going to get taken. They're being arrested. Anne looks at Jack and she says, "You should have fought like a man instead of being hanged like a dog." Obviously, dog being a very prominent spirit box term that we hear often here. The judge, his name is Nicholas Laws. Now, when you hear my name, it could be in relation to 3 different Nicholases. Either me, the Nicholas Laws that was trying on Ann Bonny, or the Nicholas Trott house that is on the other side. It's very weird. But anyway, Nicholas Laws wants to see the two men by themselves that fought back so valiantly after he's already tried and hung Calico Jack and the drunken pirate crew that wouldn't come up and fight. They're already dead and gone. The two ladies go in front of the judge. They reveal their gender. He doesn't care that they're female. He's still going to hang them because they're still pirates. We plead our bellies, was the last thing they said, basically claiming to be pregnant, because you can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail, delays the hanging. His dad is still here in Charleston with all of his Irish money. He bails out Anne, brings her back home. She marries. That's husband number 2, guy number 4, because yes, we're going to count Mary Reed, because we'll never know. Has 4 kids and dies at the age of 84. I know, all of my stories end in a very quick, abrupt death. Mary Reed died a year later in 1721 in a Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. Use your imagination. I'm sure it was bumpy and gross and whatever else you want to come up with. Now, you all know how to use your devices by now. So I left out 2 things on purpose. One of them being the name of Calico Jack's ship, so you can ask what that is, or you can ask the names of Ann Bonny's parents. I left those out on purpose. That would be the father and the mistress. We are going to be using lasers. We're going to be using all cameras. Cameras, I want you to, both of you to go up to the front of the powder magazine and get us some footage. Yes, you can use lasers with that. Watch your lasers on, just so you know. I don't want you to another car to come flying through and we set off an alarm. But we are going to end over near that brick wall. And again, this is where you guys get to explore and ask whatever the hell you want to, because this story has a lot of holes. So let's kind of see what happens with that. Now, I did tell you at the beginning of this tour about a heated warning about people passing out on my tours. This is a space where the something happened here was relevant to the story. So give me another minute of your time before we spread out. Back in September, I bring my tour back here, just like you're all standing, and the kid next to me goes white as a ghost. Yes, that pun was intended. And I have to pick him up by his armpits to be able to catch him from hitting his head on the ground. His boyfriend picks up the other arm, and we carry him over to that brick wall. I send the boyfriend over with a couple of dollars to get him a bottle of water. He comes back. He's feeling better. I then tell the story. It's important to know that they had no idea what happens. I spread everybody out to go play with their devices, and they pull me aside. I have to tell you something, Nick. Like, what's going on? We are 2 transgender males, meaning I had 2 females dressed as males on my tour, and it now made sense as to why one of them passed out almost immediately upon entering the space. So take that for what it is. Again, I can't make this stuff up. I'm a good writer, but I can't make that up. Like, that's just good stuff. They were perfectly fine with being part of my tour every night now because they thought it was super cool after we parted ways. So they texted me the next morning. I was like, do you mind if I warn my people about this? But that's part of the reason why I give those heated warnings. Most psychics won't make it through my tour. They get to the Pinky Mansion site with some of those high EMFs and they drop like a wet noodle. So whenever somebody tells me they're a psychic up front, I'm like, I'm going to be keeping an eye on you, just so you know. Because I don't use manual tools, as you guys can see. There's no Ouija boards here, no dowsing rods. Everything here is electronic, so we can actually measure and record data. So let's have some fun in here. Other tours, if you're going, or the video camera folk, when you go to the front, just kind of let the other tours do their thing and wait your turn. But definitely get us some footage. Lasers, if you want to point them in the front lawn and kind of take your time with some video up there, by all means do so. They actually used to do a tour just in the front lawn investigating the Ann Bonny story. So again, we're not going to offend anybody by doing what we're doing, but again, just let the other tours do what they're going to do because they don't stay there very long. But yeah, let's spread out and let's have some fun in here. Turn up those spirit boxes. Let's do this. What do you think?
I think I know why people passed out.
What's that?
It was from standing too long.
I know.
So this is it over here.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just happy this is on the surface.
Yeah. I know, me too.
My knees are killing me.
Well, this is the last spot. Oh, here?
I think that's the idea.
Oh.
That way you can hear the story and then tell me what you guys get after I'm done going through the history. So, let's get into this. This is Philadelphia Alley. Let's go ahead and mute yours, just because it's going to be distracting for me and we'll be here all night. Like, literally till like 2 in the morning. Now, this is Philadelphia Alley. It's easy for me to remember because that's where Eliza Pinckney's buried. So we named it Philadelphia Alley after a city that helped us out of one of our many, many fires, because I told you we've had dozens. It used to be called Dueler's Alley, so they had to change the name because dueling became illegal and stupid. So that's why it's Philadelphia Alley now. We all tell the story of one specific duel because we can actually prove that it happened, and there's a lot of things that pop up out of this. I will do my best to slow down on the keywords for you spirit box folks. So let's get into it. Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd moves down here from Rhode Island. He moves here because his fiancée Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney helping her out with his cash. The attorney thinks that the doctor's just after her money, so he tells her to get rid of the doctor. He moves to Charleston to prove that he's not after her money. So, when he comes into town, he is set up to be robbed and killed by the coachman that's driving him in. Wasn't a very good start to his day. Somebody walking by, his name is Ralph Isaacs. He sees what's going on. I'm going to stop on Ralph for a moment because this is not just a ghost story, you're actually ghost hunting. Ralph has the same initials as where the doctor came from. Ralph Isaacs, Rhode Island. R.I. shows up here a lot. We need that secondary clue to know which main character it belongs to. If anything, we get the letter R. So, Ralph says, dude, you don't want to stay here. He's got a gunman inside, he's going to try to kill you. So, he's like, I got some friends at 59 Church Street. You can stay there and you'll be safe. He rents the room and him and Ralph become friends. The doctor's practice begins to take off. He's making his own money now. Amanda's moving down soon. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. Every haunted city any of you will ever go to has a cliched whistling ghost. I'm just going to tell you right now, ours is a doctor. So it's just kind of how it rolls. So him and Ralph go see plays together, but they can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. That's the way the hierarchy works. He gets better seats. So they talk about these plays on the way home, and the doctor thought the new actress from the play was fantastic. They went to go see William III from Shakespeare. Ralph didn't like the actress. They start arguing. Then Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée back home in Rhode Island. It turns very ugly, and they go their separate ways. Ralph is from here, so he has friends at the newspaper. He goes to his friends, and he puts an ad in a paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. The doctor sees the ad, rebuttals with, let's go to Dueler's Alley. We're going to settle this. They come down, they take their 10 paces, they turn, the doctor points his gun in the air, and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend, just wanted the courage and bravery to show up to the fight, which is often what happened during a duel. Ralph has his one shot, sorry Katie, puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. The doctor doesn't die either. He just happened to be the person I was looking at. It's always the first person. So
you can take out me, whatever.
He drops to the ground, but he doesn't die. His friends pick him up and they carry him back home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing the medical treatment that was offered. He's a doctor. He probably tried to bleed it out himself. So, the ghost story of this is that they say you can walk down this alley and actually hear the whistles from the doctor. I used to take my tours all the way through here. I told you I've been booted out. I used to tell my folks, turn down your spirit boxes. It's before we started using the earbuds, and you would listen to your audio to see if any whistles come through. If you're going to test that theory on your own with your own voice recorders on your phones, I'm going to warn you that every local knows the story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street on the other side is going to throw a whistle down the alley. I do it every single night on my way home. We end up there, my garage is right there. So I pass this alley. If my daughter's on the tour, we actually race to see who's going to throw the whistle first, especially since we've been booted out. So, again, it's going to be very faint. It's also very picturesque. You can't really see the whole alley from here because there's a tour in the way, but it is beautiful down here. It's one of my favorite spots of Charleston. It's just sad that I've been booted out. So here's why I got booted out. So this is the fun story. I know it's coming. I got to tell you. So this alley didn't always come all the way through. It was blocked off. So the bricks on the other side are older. I used to show off the history of those bricks because they were sun-dried bricks from slave children. We have one full handprint in one of those bricks and fingerprint swipes. Everybody wants to stop and put an EMF meter or a spirit box near it. That brick is just like the grave sites that I told you. I'm not hanging out in cemeteries. I'm just not. That kid's not staring at that brick in the afterlife. Everybody does it. November 26, 2020, I had a whole group of people trying to do it. And it was outside some gentleman's dining room window. He was not very happy. He come out screaming. My daughter thought it was hysterical because Dad's getting yelled at. So the next night was Thanksgiving. I did not have a tour. November 28th, 2020, I get a phone call from the office. It's the tourism office of Charleston. They asked me to either go halfway down like everybody else or reroute my tour. So I decided I'm going to reroute. My tickets were much cheaper then, so it was like, all right, guys, we're going to wing it. Let's see what happens. So I don't know much about this pirate, but we're going to go talk about her of what I do know. I did a little bit of reading today. So I was cool with that. On the way there, before I even told the name, somebody heard the name Anne on a spirit box. So I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. I didn't even believe this story. I'm a vampire guy. I'm not about the pirates. We get there, I tell what I know, somebody else hears the number 300. I don't know what 300 means to the story. I gotta research it. We were there on November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th, 1720. We were there on the exact 300-year anniversary of her trial. Again, when I take you there, it's a hit or miss. Anne Bonny is said to be seen all over town, but we are taking a big risk that she's going to be there in the same 15 minutes that we will be. So again, I hate to end a tour that way, but when we get stuff, it's a holy cow moment. When we don't, it's a, all right, she wasn't here tonight. Sorry about the luck, but I'll see what I come up with in the data. What's going to happen from here is we're going to go up to St. Philip's Church and Cemetery, and I'm going to kind of go through, see what you guys tell me on your spirit boxes. There's like 15 stories on that corner. If you guys find something relatable, obviously I'll tell that story. If not, I'll get us prepared to talk about pirates, and then we're going to investigate Anne Bonny across the street at the Powder Magazine. And that'll be a full-blown, everything out, lasers, spirit boxes up, the whole 9 yards. So, anybody hear anything before we move on? Do we have anything on the list?
I had Graham.
Graham?
Really?
So, the company that actually got me started into tours, it was a new company. And there was a guy that was supposed to come on board. He is a dueling expert of Charleston. Guess what his first name is? Graham. It's just weird that you heard that. Maybe he was just here. I don't know. Like kind of looking into things, but it's just weird that you said that while we're near Dueling Alley. It's just a weird fact. Coincidental at this point, but again, something very cool. What do we got on your end?
While we were in the alley, I got stirred, ate, rare, and then Frankie said something about something. It coincided with what you said. Prepared, and then as soon as we walked around to this white building, rich. Public, if we're on this side of the road, right here it's public, and as soon as out here, it was punish and decide.
Oh. Well,
Or somebody
in the duel, it would be a punishment as well. So again, vague relations, but again, we'll see what we can capture, what's going to attach to it. If you guys want to keep rolling with your videos, you guys can. It's a tour, obviously. So
I don't know how to turn it off. I kept pushing the button, but is it...
I don't want to turn it off. I just want to like start and stop video because I'm going to splice them all together
Gotcha.
anyway.
Okay.
Let me stop over the wall.
It's up to you. Your tour. You want more footage? Let's do it. So we're only going to be going around the corner, so you can keep it going if you want. All right.
I'm not sure I'm videoing or not then. Doing okay? Yeah.
Alright, I kind of like to stop here and show off this courtyard for just a moment before I have you guys actually take a seat. So if you look across the courtyard, that's the wall to Philadelphia Alley behind me. We do capture quite a bit of words in here, so that was with the older version of the camera. We caught some pretty decent stuff. So we'll see what happens here. Any names heard along the way? Let's go around the horn. David came up here last night too. Very cool.
There you
Nothing
go.
out of you too. What was it? Rock. You're standing on Belgian block. That makes kind of sense. Any words come up out of yours?
And on the walk here,
Mm-hmm.
I had 8, slight, arrest, I didn't ask any questions, state, about execution then, and key just as robbery.
Okay. All right. So none of the names actually match up so far except for David, which has been kind of new. Let me kind of tell you what's going on here. The last crosswalk we actually crossed over was actually where the original Charlestown wall used to be. So you crossed into the original Charlestown city. It's called the Walled City. So Charleston, it used to be called Charlestown. This is one of the first streets we ever had, which is one of the reasons why I like to bring you here. I have the full list of residents of every person that's ever lived here. The names I commonly hear are Benjamin and John. Now, when I say those names are pretty common, they sound like common names to begin with. They both lived here in 1801. Do I have any significant anything about 1801 in this space? I do not. But I hear those names every 6 to 7 weeks. Now, David has been a new word that comes, a new name that pops up. He also lived here in 1801. I normally, every once in a while, I get the name Jane as well, which is something you wouldn't normally hear on the radio or see on a spirit box. So far, that's 4 people out of 5 that lived here in 1801. I keep getting the same thing over and over and over again. David's been new. I normally hear those names every 6 to 7 weeks. We are in on the end of the 6-week rotation since the last time I heard it. The name Benjamin has shown up 3 nights ago, and then the name John showed up the next night, and then David has shown up, I think this is the 2nd night in a row now. So again, very interesting that it keeps coming up. When I heard Benjamin the other day on a spirit box, it actually said Ben Simmons. What's interesting about that is this used to be called Simmons Alley. So again, these are things I cannot make up. So people used to live here, they were shotgun houses. There's not a whole lot of money in the people that live down here. So it makes sense because when they did the archaeological dig, they found some of their clothing and silverware and tools. Again, classified as lower class people. The other side of the wall would have been across the street on East Bay where we just came from. Snow low tide will be coming through here quite often. So again, the rich people of Charleston are not going to put up with that. If you've been down to the Battery, you notice the houses are skinny in the front, they go long back. There's a couple of reasons for that. They kept the smell of low tide out because we have piazzas here. They have basically a front door on the porch, basically is what that looks like. It keeps the smell from coming into the house. They would open up their 2nd story window and allow the cool breeze to come in from the water, and without the low tide smell, it would actually cool off the house as cold air drops and heat hot air rises. So again, it was like old school air conditioning. The other reason why those houses are skinny in the front is because you were taxed based on how much street side you took. So the skinnier your house, the less taxes you're paying. We just left the Pinckney Mansion site where the house was broad. So again, they had money. They had their indigo money, they had the politician money, and it was bragging rights that they could show off their house. So again, that's why the Pinckney Mansion was separate against East Bay Street. Before people lived here, the Freemasons had a Masonic lodge here, which is why it's called Lodge Alley. We will get terms wrapped around Freemasons, like Freemason, Mason, and I've even had the term Illuminati show up quite a few times down here. First off, who the hell is saying the word Illuminati on the radio? Second, why am I only hearing it in this space? So again, kind of an odd anomaly that keeps popping up. So the reason why I think I keep getting those same names over and over again, this is Ghost Hunting 101. You're all in class right now. You're standing on Belgian blocks. These are made straight from granite. If you know anything about the paranormal, you know that limestone kind of stirs up activity because it comes straight from the earth. So does granite. So with that said, when a stone like this has been in the same place for over 200 years, late 70s, 1790s is when these were laid, it's said to hang on to the consciousness of memories and basically replay it over and over again like a memory. So again, every 6 to 7 weeks, names Benjamin and John usually show up. Normally in the same nights. This week it's actually been separated, which is kind of weird all by itself, but again, very weird space. Between all this history to kind of like lull and stagger a little bit just because I want the recordings to be able to pick things up. Even though you're probably not listening to them or watching them in real time, we'll see what actually happens. The next space we're going to go to is actually another alley. However, I've been kicked out. I'm still going to tell the story. You've got to remember, you got to join the annoying group with your blinky lights and noisemakers and all that stuff. It is considered residential at the end, so I still tell that story outside of it because we get a ton of activity just by talking about it outside, and we'll probably hear things relatable to that story because all of the next spaces are going to be really tight. So it's going to be literally like half a block away from each other. So I also want to stop here for a second to kind of tell you about the names that we're going to be relative. First off, the spirit box, that one there, actually will give me the nationalities of people on my tour if they're not basically like common names. So if I have somebody that's Korean or I'm Italian or somebody with an accent, normally only pops up on that spirit box. And sometimes it's for a person the next day. Now, last night we actually had the name Annie show up, like very specific, said Annie. So I was like, we all kind of tied it into Anne Bonnie, which was the story I was telling. So I told you that there was a story where 3 of you have the same lineup of the name. So Anne Bonnie was actually Anne Cormack. They changed their name from McCormack when they moved to the new country. So that was her maiden name. So again, when I looked at your names this morning, we have an Annie, we have Bonnie. So again, not the same spelling, but I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And then of course we have a McCormack. So I was like, this is crazy. Like, I've never seen that happen before. So I'm going to be very interested in our last stop. So again, let's go check out this other alley. What's going to happen? Oh, you're good. You're good. We're going to cut through the rest of this alley, but we're going to be cutting through a neighborhood to get to the next one. So as we exit, you're going to stop both videos because we don't record in neighborhoods. Lasers are still kind of out of the game for just a few more stops, just because we're in a little bit more populated area. You're going to see other larger tours, and we kind of pick our space to stay out of their way. Remember, they're going to tell a creepy myth, and they're going to move on. So again, I'll pick our spaces based on what's going on up in that crazy corner, and then we'll kind of take it from there. The last stop is where it's going to get a little nutty with this pirate and Bonnie. We'll kind of see what happens up there. The spirit boxes, I definitely want you listening along the way. So let's kind of see what happens. Let's head up to that next alley and see what we got.
And Bonnie's kind of cool though.
Mm-hmm.
She was bad.
Sorry, watch out. I was trying to turn this off, but it wouldn't turn off.
Yeah, it's your tour. Blast.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah.
You said something about wolves back there, so I was like,
Yeah, so, I mean, with the orbs, we would probably capture them with the Phasm camera. So, it's going to come off crystal clear through that lighting. Your phones, like, they'll capture things, but that's probably more than likely. But we are going to get some footage here as well. So if I can get the cameras closer to me down this way, so because you're going to shoot your camera down the alley. So that way we can actually, as I tell the story, maybe something will actually pop through.
right there.
Yep. Yeah, because they're going to be leaving shortly. we're allowed to actually go halfway through there, but I told you that the other tours go up to 20 people, especially on a Friday night. They're going to be full. So it's not fair to us or them for 10 people to try to navigate around 20 to 40 and a half of an alley. You guys just seen how skinny Lodge Alley was. So again, stirring things up over here. Those of you that have earbuds in, I definitely want you kind of